All a chance to hop in so I can go in. Oh man, I'm going in. I'm going in. We talking about pain. Pain. You know that P word everybody hates. You know, there's a word that's an expletive that begins with P that Philadelphians are notorious for hating, but they might not hate that word more than they hate the word pain. I don't know, but I'm gonna tell you, with that P word in Philadelphia, you gonna get beat. Or somebody gonna try to beat you when you use that word. Like, ask a Philadelphian what that word is. Because it's an expletive, I'm not at liberty to say what it is, but let's just say it starts with a P, it ends with a Y. It's an expletive, so it's not the word Philly, okay? So, all right, so with respect for time, I'm going to keep going and jump right in. Let's talk about purpose in pain. Yes, we are talking about pain because here's what's true, Superwoman. Pain is inevitable. Sometimes it's avoidable, but without question, it's inevitable. You're going to experience some pain. You're going to feel some pain. Pain cometh, okay? Pain cometh. And so let's address it, because a lot of times we're afraid of pain because it hurts for the obvious reasons, right? But that leads me into some of the pros and cons that I wanted to share with you. And I'm going to start with the cons. I'm going to go with the pros and then just flow from there. So the cons of pain are the obvious, right? Pain hurts, right? Pain hurts, the obvious. It interferes with our plans. It interferes with our life. You know, like, we out and about, we doing things, we trying to get things done. And then here comes pain. And, you know, pain can potentially shut you all the way down, right? Which takes me back to the Superwoman self-care checklist. If you haven't been checking off that list, get to work, Superwoman, because as I said, it will shut you down and you're not going to like it. But anyway, the other kind is that pain can be costly, right? And I'm not just talking about, you know, finances, but including your income. It could cost you the loss of income. It could cost you the loss of relationships. It could cause you major loss, definitely loss of time, which means, you know, opportunities and such, right? So those are the cons of pain. Let's talk about some of the pros of pain. This is what's exciting me. And no, I'm not sadistic. And no, I don't like pain. However, what I've learned is that, you know, you can't avoid the inevitable. You just can't. Like, you know, so it's just kind of like you can't run from pain. So you may as well, you know what? I'm going to leave that for later because that's taking me into some of my other points. So let's talk about the pros. The pros of pain. One, it's an indicator, right? Pain is letting you know something's wrong. It's an indicator. It's letting you know something is off here. Make some adjustments. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a sign. Pain is an indicator. It's a sign. Pain causes correction, right? As I was saying, because it's an indicator, it's indicating to you something is off, then it can cause you to correct some things, right? Things you wouldn't know to correct or that needed to be corrected, right? And so the other pro about pain is it also creates change, necessary change, necessary change. That's what I want to harp on today. I want to focus on necessary change, how pain is here to serve you. And I know the cons will make you want to not let it serve you. But I'm telling you that pain is here to serve you. So let's talk about how it can serve you, how pain can create change for you. All right, so I want to start by saying that pain is the price for your promise. God promised you something, right? I don't know what it is for you personally, but God promised you something. Again, whoever you consider God to be, promised you something. Maybe it was, I don't know. I was looking for an example, but let me give you an example. Okay, maybe God promised you a solution. Maybe God promised you a healing. Maybe God promised you a relationship. Whatever it is, a financial breakthrough. Whatever it may be, God promised you something, right? Okay, so the price that you're going to pay for that promise is pain. But stay with me, Superwoman, because it's not as bad as you think. Like, you're like, what kind of sadistic God is that? Like, like he promised me something, but I got to endure pain. Well, yeah, you do got to endure some pain, but again, it's good. So stay with me. So yes, pain is the price that you are going to pay for the promise. Whatever it is that you've been asking God for, whatever it is that you've been believing God for, that's your promise, okay? Let's talk about 3 levels of pain. Let's talk about pain. Before we get to the good stuff, let's just address the unease when we think about pain. Let's address the discomfort, which kind of leads me into the 3 levels. Discomfort. That's number 1. The first level of pain is discomfort. Okay, so when you're feeling this discomfort, you try to ignore it and you tolerate it. Like you kind of dismissive towards it. You just kind of like, oh, okay, I felt that. Oh, okay. And you just keep going. You don't pay it no mind. But remember when I said one of the pros of pain is that it's an indicator? So stop doing that. If you feel pain, know that it's there to serve you. Know that it's there for a reason. So that's the first level where you feel discomfort. But that pain that's there to facilitate a necessary change ain't going away. And since it's not going away and you dismissed it because it's just a little uncomfortable and you feel like you can tolerate it, it increases. So it's more pain. Stay with me, Superwoman. I promise you I'm not sadistic. All right, so here you are now in more pain. So the next level is concern. Now you're concerned because the pain hasn't gone away. And when we're dismissing it, we're just kind of like, it'll pass, it'll go away. Yeah, not pain that's there to bring a necessary change. It ain't going nowhere until you face it. Okay, so when you're feeling concerned, you give it some attention, but you don't really step into the seriousness of it yet because you just want a quick fix. You just don't want to be in pain. And so you just kind of like, okay, you want to medicate it, so to speak, so the medication, it dulls the pain. What is medication? Oh my gosh. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be medicinal. Medication could be cookies, chocolate chip cookies. Ooh, Hershey's with almonds. Yes. Like you medicate your pain, whatever your drug may be. Like, ooh, how about an ice cold Pepsi? Oh my gosh. Like, anyway, so whatever you use to medicate your pain, you might try to medicate it. But yeah, that quick fix, it only dulls it. It only shifts it a little bit. It doesn't eliminate it. It doesn't eliminate it, and it doesn't allow that pain to serve its purpose. So it'll cause you to prolong the pain. Oh my gosh, that's probably a message in itself. Prolonged pain, or at least that's a good title. Prolonged pain. Who wants to be in prolonged pain? Even though that's our habit, we can't lie. Like, we be doing that. We be in prolonged pain. But anyway, the third level is afraid. Listen, by the time you get to the third level, you in rescue mode. By the time you get to the third level, it is all consuming. And you ain't looking for Google fixes, quick fixes. You not looking for, this thing is consuming you. It's overtaking you. And listen, you want real help now. You want this thing eliminated. You want it gone. You never want to see it again, experience again. None of that, whatever, right? So yeah, I'm thinking about the Google. Like, you know how we do, like, we be Googling answers and all of that or whatever. Child, listen, you get to level 3, Google ain't your friend. You ain't got time for Google. So here's the thing. I wanted to share those 3 levels of pain with you because I wanted to help you appreciate the purpose in pain, the purpose of pain, right? Well, no, that's not what I shared the 3 levels. I shared the pros because, again, we had to deal with the nasty. We had to deal with the ugly first, right? So I shared those pros with you so that you could appreciate the purpose of pain. All right, so I had to correct myself. And how it works for you. And you want it to work for you because, again, what I was saying at the onset, what we would normally do is try to avoid it. You don't want to avoid it. No. You want to avoid it. I'm sorry. I'm so excited. I'm jumbling my words. You want to avoid pain when possible, but that's not what we generally do. What we generally do is we try to resist it. That's what we normally do. We try to resist pain. So we might think that's avoidance, but no, we're trying to resist it. We're trying to get around it. Those kind of things. There's a total different activity that we get into when we're avoiding pain. And that's just really simply walking in wisdom. If you know that touching a hot stove is going to burn your hand, you're going to execute wisdom. You're going to, walk in wisdom and not put your hand on that hot stove. So that's how you avoid pain. But how we be trying to resist pain is we be trying to dodge it. We be trying to get around it. That's what I'm talking about. So avoiding pain, we definitely want to do that. Resisting pain, you do not want to do that, Superwoman. Okay? Now, we're ready to get into the good stuff. And the reason why you don't want to the reason why you don't want to resist pain is because, as I was saying before, that pain is for a necessary change. And that's what we're going to focus on for the rest of this. Necessary change. I told you I was going to get to the good part. We had to deal with the ugly stuff first. Because, listen, that's what's true. If we're going to be real, one of the things I can't stand is the toxic positivity where, people always want to act like everything is always okay. Everything is not always okay. Sometimes the world collapses all around you and you be like, what the yeah. You know what I was going to say. So it's just kind of like, can you be positive in the face of adversity and those kind of things? Yes, and you should be. But acting like and pretending like nothing is ever wrong and nothing goes wrong in your world, like that's just BS. Anyway, I'm not getting on my soapbox. I'm going to stick to these points. So we're talking about you experiencing pain for your necessary change. Necessary change. What does necessary change look like? Well, again, back to whatever God promised you, right? It might require some change. It might require that you stop doing certain things. You stop going certain places. You stop thinking certain ways, and that's painful. Change is painful. Change is uncomfortable. Change is just kind of like, nobody really wants to get into change because our norms are comfortable. I mean, let's just keep it 100. Our norms are comfortable, but all of our promises are on the other side of our comfort zones. And so the price that we have to pay for the promise, listen, there's a price for everything, including what's free. And that's real talk. So the price that you're paying for this promise is the pain, the discomfort of you changing. So if you've been believing God for something, if you've been asking God for something, you've been trusting God for something, and you're not seeing it manifest for you, there's a reason. There's a reason. And the lack of manifestation is causing you pain. So again, necessary, right? Because that pain causes you to revisit, and go and ask what the problem is. you want to listen, you ain't going to act like Ike Turner, but you thinking like Ike Turner, like what the problem is. You want to know, okay, it should be a change here. This should be changed by now. What's preventing this change? What's holding up this change? What's blocking my blessing? That pain, should I say, will cause you to do that. Because there's a difference between being patient, waiting, being patient, and wasting your time. And with the enemy of our good, who comes to kill, steal, and destroy, a lot of times he's holding back the good that God has for us, because God says that he doesn't withhold any good from us, right? So whatever that promise may be is good, right? And so if it's being held back, we've got to acknowledge God ain't doing that. God's not doing that to me. Acknowledge that. Recognize who your enemy is. Recognize what your enemy is doing so you can get that transfer going on, because you need whatever it is that you was asking for, whatever you've been praying for, you need that manifested. You need it transferred from God's hands, whoever's hands, to your hands. Okay. So that pain, let's talk about some action steps that you can implement, SuperWoman, so that we can address the pain. We can embrace the pain. One, I want you to acknowledge it. Acknowledge pain. I was saying it earlier, but I'm saying it now as I'm giving you your action steps, and then I'm going to give you your healing homework. Acknowledge it. It's so important that you acknowledge it, because like I said, during those 3 levels, when it's just, when it's just an annoyance, you kind of want to dismiss it and just ignore it, but you don't want to ignore it. You always want to ask, what is the purpose of this pain? Why is this pain here? Now, let me be clear. I'm not a therapist, so I'm not trying to take you into your childhood trauma, that kind of thing. I'm talking about present pain. I'm talking about some present disappointment, some present hindrances and holdups that you've got going on right now. Because, I don't want to be acting like, above my pay grade. Listen. I've been through therapy. I've done a lot of work, those kind of things, whatever. And I can always share those things with you all. But I have to disclaim that I am not a therapist. And so for the intents and purposes, we're talking about a promise that you currently have, something that you've got before God in this time frame right now, that where you haven't experienced a breakthrough, where you haven't gotten any traction, like you're not seeing the results. All right, so again, one, you want to acknowledge it. Don't dismiss it. It's there for a reason. You always want to find out what the reason is. Two, you want to allow it. One, acknowledge it. Two, allow it. That sounds a little sadistic, I get it, but I'm not being sadistic. I promise, I'm not being sadistic. Allow it. And I'm not talking about like just from an abusive place. What I'm saying is feelings, that pain is a feeling, right? Feelings need to process. They need to pass through. And so that's what you want to do. You want to process it. And when you're asking, what is this pain here for? What is the purpose of this pain? That is a part of you processing it and allowing it to pass through, because you want it to pass through. You don't want it to be extended. You don't want to be in pain for a long period of time. Who the hell wants to be suffering? Okay, number three. Number three. I be having to catch myself because I will go on my little tangents. Number three, advocate for relief. You have a promise. Use that promise to advocate for your relief, right? So let's go beyond the promise being what you're asking God for. Let's focus on that promise being what God's response to you is and what you've asked for. So is it God's will for you? That's not hard to determine. Like, listen, we got to uncomplicate. Let's normalize the simplicity of our relationship, our communication with God. I want this to settle in the city of your soul, Superwoman. God says, call on me and I will answer. Period. Period. Listen, your mind will play all kinds of tricks on you to be like, oh, God's not talking. God don't talk to me. God ain't showing. Yes, he is. God is always talking as often as you're willing to listen. Because of our filters, we might be missing what he's saying. And that's why pain may be present, because you're missing what he's saying. And listen, it's no guilt and no condemnation. Again, the pain is an indicator. So you keep going back until you have resolve, until you have resolution, until you have answers, until you have clarity. Because the enemy of your good wants to keep you blinded and in the darkness. Because as long as you're blinded and in the darkness, he gonna sit on your goods. And listen, it's completely up to you whether you're gonna let the enemy just take your shit or you're gonna go get your shit. Seriously, you got to determine that for yourself. I just went on. I just did my little soapbox thing, didn't I? My bad. I'll be trying. So advocate for your relief. What is God saying to you? Whatever God said to you, that is your promise. That is your answer. And that's what you advocate with. That, you know how the word says resist the enemy. Submit yourself to God, resist the enemy, and the enemy will flee from you. That's how you do that. You've got to keep speaking that. You've got to keep acknowledging that. You've got to keep processing that. Because your mind will make you quit. Your mind will convince you that, oh, it must not be God for me. It must not be God's time. Listen, let me give you an example. If your car breaks down in the middle of the night on a long, dark road, when do you need AAA? Right then. You're not going to be sitting there well, hopefully they'll be here by tomorrow then. Oh, well, maybe they'll be here next week. No, you need relief now. You need help now. So it's just kind of like, if you're in pain, if you're in especially visible pain, oh my gosh, if you're in pain and you're calling on God, God's going to wait 2 weeks to send you relief and help and guidance and instruction. Like, the enemy is robbing you. He's lying to you, Superwoman. And I want to point that out to you so that you and God can get on the same page and you can get your stuff. Okay. So that's it. Those are your action steps. 1, allow it. 2, one, acknowledge it. I'm sorry. 2, allow it. And 3, advocate for relief from it. This is your part, should I say. We say, God has a part, you have a part. That's your part. That's your part, because we've got to work in conjunction with God. We've got to get in agreement with God. And that's why it's important that you hear what God is saying, because if you don't know what God is saying about your situation, how y'all going to be in agreement? How can 2 walk together unless they agree? So if you and God ain't in agreement, then y'all ain't walking together. And yes, I said ain't. Superwoman, is this time to heal, Superwoman? Listen, the enemy has been sitting on our stuff for way too long. It is time for us. Listen, those challenges we've been facing, it's time to break through. Seriously. Like, again, no judgments. I'm not condemning you. I'm not judging you. I'm not trying to guilt you. I'm encouraging you. Superwoman, it is time to get your shit. The enemy is just sitting on your stuff, and he just, like, he's comfortable. He comfortable because it's time to heal, Superwoman. Again, embrace it. Embrace it and know that it's there to serve you. Work with it. Don't try to resist it. And again, where avoidance is concerned, if you work through it, then in the future, you'll be able to avoid it. So that's what I got, Superwoman. Hopefully, prayerfully, that was helpful. Whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. As I say all the time, the stuff that I share with you, dolls, is easy to do, but it's easy not to do. Like, real talk, because it's so simple. It's just easy not to do. So, Superwoman, I will talk to you, dolls. Bye for now.